There's a new Census Bureau report out about poverty in America, and the increase is alarming. And the overall numbers are also alarming. So in the report, poverty areas are defined as places where more than 20% of the people live below the federal poverty line. Now that varies by family size, but just for some reference here, for a family of 4, the poverty line in most states is an annual income of $23,850. Now, I actually think that that's, way too low a number anyway. I think that if you have a family of 4 and you're making $30,000 a year, that's really not enough to survive, and you're poor. But whatever, we'll go by their definition from here. So just, again, for reference, we're being too kind to the idea of poverty. I mean, the numbers are much higher than this, but we'll use these conservative numbers anyway. So let me show you the first chart here. This is the increase in poverty by region. Okay, so the purple there represents the year 2000. In the year 2000, overall in the U.S., we had an 18.1% poverty rate. By 2010, that shot up to 25.7%. Wow, that's a huge increase. When you look at the Northeast, it was 16.5% poverty rate in 2000. It shot up to 19.9% in 2010. In the Midwest, it was 11.7%. It shot up to 21.5%. In the South, it was 21.8%. Then it shot up to 30.8%. In the West, it was 20%. Then it shot up to 25.9%. So across the board, no matter what region you look at, it was a tremendous increase in poverty. Now, let's go to the amount of poverty by state, because this is the most telling chart. So for everybody listening on the radio right now to the live show, the South is just has much higher levels of poverty across the board. In fact, the darker blue on this chart represents the higher levels of poverty. The lighter the color is, the less poverty there is. And that dark blue region that you see matted throughout the South there, that's 30% or more. Holy shit, man. That's such a high level of poverty. And again, if you look in the north there, by and large, the northern states have a lot less poverty. Now, it's still, too high, and we should still try to chip away in the northern regions as well. But the South is feeling it, man. They're feeling it real bad. So what's the takeaway from this? Now, a lot of people would look at this chart, and of course the Republicans and the conservatives go into their silly little tap dance where they say, don't politicize the issue, don't politicize it. But wait a second. Of course we have to politicize it. Because what's the reality about the states that have more poverty? They are more conservative states. They have Republican legislatures and Republican governors by and large. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at the policies in those states, they have much lower taxes on the rich, and they have much higher taxes on the poor. So their tax rates across the board are flatter, but they shift the tax burden more onto poor people. You also have lower rates of unionization in those areas. You have a much weaker social safety net and much worse welfare programs. The amount that people get in those programs is significantly less, and there's stricter standards to be on those programs in the first place. There's much less job opportunities in the region. So they're getting hammered, and they're largely getting hammered for systemic reasons, but also because the politicians don't represent them at all in those regions. At least in some of the more democratic areas and in the northern areas, you have slightly better social safety nets and some more job opportunities and whatnot. But overall, you have to make the connection, because the connection is true, There's a logical deduction there that is correct, and the idea is where you have more conservative policies, you have more poverty. That's not an accident. That's not a mistake. Conservative policies largely favor the well-to-do and the rich. So, I mean, what do we do? Well, look, to to combat things like this, of course, you should increase the minimum wage. And, we have a whole class of working poor people in the United States of America, over 10 million people, and a lot of these people are in the South. So you need to raise the minimum wage. You need to increase unionization rates, which leads to a stronger middle class. You need a higher tax rate on the richest people in the country, and you can fund social safety net programs. We need to do a New Deal and have new projects, shovel-ready projects, they call them, to update the roads and the bridges and the infrastructure and the electric grid. I mean, our infrastructure overall, we have a grade of D. The Civil Society of Engineers, they do a study every few years where they rank the infrastructure in the U.S. We get a D overall. There are so many jobs that are waiting to be had in these areas, not to mention if we actually threw a lot of money behind green technology and renewable technology. We know we can't be on fossil fuels forever. We're going to have to wean ourselves off eventually, so why don't we get ahead of the problem, and why don't we do massive investment in these things and give people jobs in, wind, solar, thorium, geothermal, all that stuff. I mean, we have so many opportunities here, but the way that we can actually fix the problem of unemployment and poverty is to implement progressive policies across the board. But of course, the conservative states are not going to, implement progressive policies, and then people are going to continue to live in poverty as a result of it.